Let us now move on to the third session. This session will feature presentations from the fields of society and AI. Please welcome Associate Professor Hisano as the session moderator, along with all the speakers. Dr. Hisano is an associate professor at the Interfaculty Initiative in Information Studies and the Graduate School of Interdisciplinary Information Studies, the University of Tokyo. Dr. E is a professor at the Department of Philosophy, Hanyang University. Dr. Spoden is a principal researcher at the German Institute for Japanese Studies. Dr. Itatsu is a professor at the Interfaculty Initiative in Information Studies and the Graduate School of Interdisciplinary Information Studies, the University of Tokyo. The theme of this session is AI and Society, Imagination and Responsibility for the Future.
Okay, thank you. Is it on? Okay. Thank you for the introduction. And hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the panel, AI and Society, Imagination and Responsibility for the Future. I think our session will be quite different from the earlier two panels, but I think it's all kind of relevant to the earlier sessions as well as other research on AI. So this panel explores how AI shapes human life and society and how we might imagine alternative futures while taking responsibility for ethical, social, and cultural consequences of these technologies. And we are joined today by three scholars whose work speaks directly to these questions, each from a different disciplinary and institutional perspective. So our panelists have been already introduced, so I will omit the introduction, but just briefly to give you some background, Professor E holds a degree in physics from Seoul National University and a PhD in philosophy of science from the London School of Economics. So he has expertise both in physics, natural science, and also philosophy. So it's a good mix for this discussion as well. And Dr. Spoden is a principal researcher at the German Institute for Japanese Studies in Tokyo, and her expertise lies in science and technology studies, medical anthropology, and bioethics. And Professor Itatsu, a good colleague of mine at University of Tokyo, is also a founding member and a former director of the BA Global Forum, our research initiative. And she's a social and cultural historian whose recent work examines the socio-political impacts of AI. So before we begin our panel discussion, I would like to briefly introduce activities and achievements of our research team called BAI Global Forum. You see the logo on your left side, upper left side. Over the past 6 years, to give you some context for our later discussions. So the BAI Global Forum was founded with a clear aim to think about AI not only as a technical system, but as a social, political, and cultural force. From the beginning, we were motivated by a simple but pressing question: what does it mean to live with AI as part of our social infrastructure, not as a tool we occasionally use, but as something that increasingly shapes decision-making, knowledge production, and everyday life for all of us. And AI, in this sense, is not just a technology, but it is something that reorganizes our life, how power is exercised, how responsibility is distributed, and how futures are imagined. So BAI, our research team, was created as a space or intellectual space to think critically about these transformations and technologies before they become fully normalized or taken for granted. And Our ultimate goal is to reconceptualize ethics and an inclusive society in the age of AI, as you see on the center on the screen. So rather than treating ethics as a checklist or a set of abstract principles applied after technologies are built, we approach ethics as something that must be embedded in social structures, institutional arrangements, and design processes themselves. And to do this, we have 3 pillars you see on the screen. We analyze AI and society through intersectional perspectives, paying attention to how gender, race, disability, nationality, and other axes of difference shape both technological development and its consequences. At the same time, we question modern institutions and value systems that have often prioritized market efficiency and unilateral technological progress, sometimes at the expense of social justice, care, and accountability. So our aim is to contribute to designing AI systems that support diverse forms of life in a more equitable way. And the B in BAI Global Forum, the name of our team, captures this orientation. It signals our interest in thinking before AI, behind AI, and beyond AI. That is, in the historical trajectories, political economies, and social structures that condition contemporary technologies. So by asking what precedes AI or before AI, what interests and assumptions are embedded within AI or behind AI, and what social relations sustain this technology, we aim to understand society not simply with AI, but also beyond AI. So in this sense, BAI is not about resisting or critiquing technology, but about widening the horizon of how technology can be understood and governed. And over the past 6 years, BAI has worked across disciplines, institutions, and national contexts to examine AI's implications for society, from governance and labor to ethics, culture, and everyday life. And our activities have included, for example, international comparative research on AI, as you see on your right, studies of biases in large language models, and collaborative projects that bring together humanities scholars, social scientists, and technologists and engineers. And one example is a project on AI and art with French research institution CNRS, which explored how AI technologies transform creativity, authorship, and cultural value. And another project is a project called Cross-Cultural Approaches to Desirable AI, conducted with universities in Europe, including University of Bonn, University of Cambridge, and the University of Applied Sciences Europe, which examined how ideas of desirable or responsible AI differ across social and cultural contexts. Lastly, our graduate student research assistants have also played a crucial role in organizing interdisciplinary seminars, helping to sustain conversations that cross both disciplinary and national boundaries. Also, outreach and education have been another core part of BAI's work. We have organized numerous international symposia and workshops, participated in global forums such as AI House Davos and APEC meetings, and developed undergraduate courses that encourage students to think critically about AI, society, and ethics. And these educational activities are especially important for us because they allow critical perspectives on AI to circulate beyond the special research communities and to engage students at earlier stages. And through these initiatives, outreach, education, collaboration, we have built a global network connecting over 50 institutions worldwide, including North America, Asia, Australia, Europe, and Africa. And our research outcomes have appeared in multiple international journals and also edited volume called Understanding AI in Society, How Technologies Exert Power, which was published in Japanese, published by the University of Tokyo Press in 2023. And our work has been recognized by key academic and professional communities. One example is the AILC Award from the Japanese Society for Artificial Intelligence, awarded to our project on cross-cultural approaches to desirable AI, which I mentioned earlier. And one particular important contribution we think of our work has been helping to consolidate what is now often referred to as critical AI studies. This is a research field or kind of research approach to AI that examines how AI reshapes social values, culture, and forms of knowledge by interrogating the social arrangements and value systems embedded in this technology. And here, being critical or hihan, teki or hihan in Japanese, about AI does not simply mean being skeptical or oppositional. It can also mean being attentive to context, power, and history, and being willing to imagine alternative ways of developing and governing AI. So a defining feature of this approach is the integration of critical interpretive methods from the humanities and social sciences with intersectional, multi-layered social analysis, directly linked to concrete issues of AI design and development. So rather than asking only how AI works or how it should be regulated, critical AI studies asks questions such as whose values are encoded in AI systems and what kind of existing social values are embedded, or whose interests are prioritized and whose voices are marginalized or excluded. And BAI has contributed to institutionalizing this field by creating sustained spaces where researchers and practitioners engaged in AI development and social implementation can collaborate on equal basis with scholars in the humanities and social sciences. Now, looking ahead in the future, we hope that these efforts help move critical approaches to AI beyond isolated or short-term projects, supporting critical AI studies as a durable and globally connected field. And there is particular significance in advancing this work from the geopolitical and cultural context of East Asia. While AI development has long been dominated by the global north, AI innovation and competition are intensifying across Asia today, as you all know. Yet, critical research on AI remains largely centered in Western institutions. So by engaging this field from East Asia, we aim to relativize these asymmetries, respond critically to power relations reproduced through technology, and imagine alternative forms of technological and institutional design. With that context in mind, I would now like to invite our panelists to reflect on how imagination and responsibility can and should shape the future relationship between AI and society, or AI and human being, with a particular focus on this critical AI studies or critical approaches to AI. So enough from me. All of your work and expertise are crucial to this emerging field of study on AI, and the diversity of your work demonstrate the richness of these approaches to AI technology or relations between AI and society. So in your brief self-introduction, could you explain how your work engages with critical AI studies or critical approaches to AI more generally, and what being critical means in your own research practice? So shall we start with Celia? Let me change the slides.
Yeah, I just learned I'm the only one who has slides, but yeah, so my name is Celia Spoden. I'm a principal researcher at the DIJ, as Aisan already mentioned, and again, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here today. On this first slide, you see an avatar robot called Orihime, and next to it, a tablet saying, "This robot is not AI." And this is very important in this context because this robot is placed on a table in a cafe here in Tokyo. And in this cafe, people who have difficulties leaving their homes, many of them because of disabilities, work remotely through the robot and serve the guests in the cafe. So it's important to tell the guests that they are not talking with an AI robot, but with a real person behind it. And so this brings me to my current research project, which is exactly about this Orihime robot. It's a project about avatar technologies for an inclusive society, which I conduct together with Adisa Ima here from Tokyo University. And the main research question is what opportunities and risks do avatar robots present to society in general and to vulnerable populations such as people with disabilities and illness in particular, and whether these technologies offer new opportunities for social inclusiveness or contain new risks of exclusion. So, and for me, critical AI or technology studies more in general means recognizing that technologies are never neutral. They are always embedded and shaped by specific historical, social, cultural, economic, and political contexts, and they actively reshape those contexts in return. So, and therefore it's crucial to reveal the situatedness of technologies. And this means to ask how, how the development and implementation of technologies is embedded in and shaped by certain contexts. So situatedness means to understand technologies as fundamentally embedded in rather than separated from their context. And for the historical situatedness, this means to reveal how current technologies carry forward legacies of earlier technologies, practices, and power relations. For social and cultural context, this means to ask how technology development reflects particular cultural values, social norms, and worldviews, as Aisan already said, mostly Western or corporate or technocratic ones, that shape what problems get addressed and how. And for the economic situatedness, this means how technologies emerge from or reinforce specific economic structures, and in the political context, how AI technologies are shaped by and shape governance, regulation, and political power. This means that the development of certain technologies is not inevitable, but a product of specific choices, interests, and conditions that could have been or could still be different. This also means that there is a bidirectional influence, and a critical approach examines both directions of this relationship, asking how technologies emerge from and reconfigure social relations. So examining power structures and the social impact of technologies means to ask who benefits from these technologies and how do certain technologies reinforce or challenge existing inequalities. And in my opinion, it's very important to question assumptions and reflect about key concepts we use in our work. So whose perspective shape how technologies are designed? What are the underlying concepts in tackling certain problems with technologies? And what are the consequences of choosing certain concepts or models and not others? And to give you an example from my own research, so whether we adopt a medical model of disability that sees disability as an individual deficit to be fixed, versus a social model of disability where disability is seen as created by social barriers and design choices, has profound implications for how technologies are developed. So in a medical model, technologies focus on correcting or normalizing disabled people, whereas in a social model, technologies focus on removing barriers and enabling participation. So, and this conceptual work matters because the frameworks we use shape what problems we see, what solutions we imagine, and whose perspectives count.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Professor Yi?
Yeah, thank you. Before I give my academic background on research, I would like to thank and mention that how grateful I am to be invited in this wonderful conference. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here and learn a lot from the earlier discussions on physics and neuroscience and its connection with AI. And it's perhaps I can relate to many of these issues because of my mixed background. I have this physics and philosophy background, and I'm now teaching AI ethics at the Department of Artificial Intelligence at Hanyang University, and I'm very kind of enjoying this kind of interdisciplinary environment. I want to mention about these critical AI studies some kind of linguistic and conceptual issues. I was amused by when you mentioned this Japanese word critique has a kind of implication of criticizing and say bad thing about the following issues. And we have a similar problem with Korean. When you say critique in Korean, which is 비판, people tend to think that it's saying bad thing about the following topic. But if you look at the Kantian critique of pure reason, that doesn't mean that Kant actually criticized pure reason as something which we have to repel. It's just critically evaluate, examine the kind of range and the power of a pure reason and try to build up that kind of evaluation, the better understanding and the better future of pure reason in the modern world. I think we should take the same attitude to the AI ethics in the critical AI studies, meaning that if you look at the origin of ethics, it comes from the Greek word ethos. And the difference between the Greek understanding of ethos and our current, especially Korean or even Japanese understanding of ethics, we call yuli in Korean, is the diversity, of course, limited diversity and the constructive nature of ethics. When you go back to Greek period, ethos means some normative social character. So it has some normative aspect. But what you have to remember is there is a diversity among the Greek the cities, states. For instance, Spartan as ethos is quite different from the Athens ethos. For instance, obliging to the state authority was a Spartan ethos because Sparta was almost a military dictatorship. But in the case of Athens, you have more emphasis on the ethos of free discussion and the rational choice. But if you look at the ethos in general, there is a common ethos shared by all the Greek civil states, like courage and moderation, for instance. So I think we should look at the AI ethics not in terms of, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do it, like this, disallowing or forbidding certain aspect of AI development. We should look at AI ethics in a more constructive way. For instance, Greek tried to find out what is the better ethos, what is the futuristic ethos they have to keep in mind when they have to collaborate against the Persian invasion into Greek peninsula. So the AI has a great potential as well as pitfalls and the dangers. And in the case of AI ethics, we should follow the spirit of ethos in Greek times and try to find what is ethically valuable and what is the better way of realizing AI potential in our current society. I will just end my observation from my small episode. When I look at the word future in the Oxford English Dictionary, I found that in 17th century, future was briefly used as a verb. So you can actually use future in 17th century as a verb. I don't know what exactly that brief usage of future as a verb happened. But my guess is in those modern times, Westerners are very confident that they could make better future. I mean, you know, even better than the antiquity they always admired in the Renaissance period. So they have this very active attitude toward the future. That's why they could use future as a verb. I think we should take the similar attitude toward the AI, which is a really great potential, but also has some dangers as well. So we have to make our AI future in a more constructive way as a verb, and that's the critical AI studies should go for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Professor Itatsu?
Thank you. It's a real great pleasure to be here. I'm happy to contribute some of my thoughts here. My own interest, I'm a historian by training, and my own interest started with understanding how technology can impact marginalized populations in our society, both to include them by using technology, how can we include people, and also how can we exclude them. Marginalized populations can also use technology to use it as a force to integrate themselves, or maybe to fight the authoritative or authorities so that they can gain more power. So this is where I started with AI, and I've kind of been evolving ever since. The geopolitical situation that we find ourselves in now, I think, is really interesting. There's so much research coming out of North America, China, Europe, but I think there's probably much more research that needs to be done about our perceptions of AI around the world, not just in East Asia and South Asia, but also in Africa, and because our perceptions actually have a huge impact on how we actually want our AI systems to be utilized in our respective societies. So with that in mind, I've been thinking about what is actually sustainable AI? And I don't necessarily mean it just in terms of environmentally sustainable, which of course is very important, but also how is it politically sustainable? Like how can AI be, or how can we create a politically sustainable AI or culturally sustainable AI? These are things that I think are also important questions to ask. So given these kinds of research interests, I'll just end with one more little anecdote about my educational program on AI and social justice. In this project, one of the key things that we do is to think about virtual survivors. So World War II survivors are shrinking in population, and we want to make sure that the memories live on. And so some of the museums around the world, including the Holocaust Museum and the Historical Museum in Hiroshima, for example, they have virtual survivors who will answer the visitors' questions based on the kind of restricted language models that they have. The project that we do in my class is that students team up and they perform the role of either philosopher or sociologist or anthropologist or ethicist or educator, maybe Holocaust survivor families, Holocaust survivors themselves, and they basically have a discussion about what is the best way to use this kind of technology. And so the reason why I do this is it's precisely because I want to instill in the students a kind of sense of what critical AI studies might look like. And I think in this case, it's very much about a co-creation of the best kind of use based on everybody's input, not just the people who created the technology, not just the people who are governing this technology, but other people who are also involved. So I'll stop there, but that kind of is what critical AI studies means to me.
Thank you very much. I think all of your introduction and your statements already give us a kind of sense of how diverse but also interconnected these approaches to AI are. So maybe building on Professor Itatsu's point about sustainable AI, politically, culturally, not only environmentally sustainable, and also your teaching experience, I want to shift a question, or slightly related, about questions of funding, agency, and power. So many of these issues you've raised connect directly to who sets the agenda for AI research in the first place, which including funding, money is important for research, but also who sets this research question. So how do funding structures, institutional priorities, or national policy agendas even shape what kinds of questions can or cannot be asked, and how AI is developed, and also how the technology is implemented in society. So could we start with Professor Itatsu this time?
Yes, thank you. So funding is very important. And it's a little bit bittersweet that this is one of our last presentations, I suppose, as BAI, but I want to talk more about the legacy of BAI. So funding schemes clearly steer the direction of innovation, and I think if critical perspectives, if one of the questions is, can critical perspectives be part of policy, I think that's a question that actually includes a lot of tension. And the reason why there's tension embedded in it is because somehow we think that maybe critical perspectives and innovation, or critical perspectives and policy-driven funding cannot be in the same sentence. And I think that requires some introspection. Maybe one kind of easy thing I might say as an example is I'm going to pick a little bit on deepfake technology now. I don't have any problems with deepfake technology per se. I think there's probably a lot of really important ways to use deepfake technology for social good, but if we look at the internet and how it's being used by the general consumer or the general public, 90 to 95% of deepfake images are pornographic in nature. 98% of deepfake videos that are just circulating around in the internet are pornographic, and 99% of them target women. So if we think about this in terms of how general consumers use technology to harm people, 98% of the time, I think that's a discussion that we actually need to have. But this discussion has not happened. It's still, widely used, and it seems to be getting more popular. So I don't understand why this conversation does not end up in the same conversation as how we use autonomous weapons. It's definitely a weaponized tool against women, or it's a gender-based violence tool for that. So that speaks to the funding and the kind of power that certain people have in disseminating such technology to the general public. It doesn't have to be to the general public. That's a choice that people made. And while they might say benignly, oh, well, we didn't know this would be the case, it's been a few years now since we've been seeing this phenomena. There's clearly a time that we need to start thinking about what is good use or what is absolutely bad use of AI technology. So I think there's funding, agency, and power embedded in this one particular example, and I just wanted to throw that out as something that you can maybe take home and think about as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Spoden?
Yes, and I think also critical studies of AI or technology can also be beneficial for or can should be part of every research project to reflect about like their own assumptions, their own impact of what is developed, and I think in this regard it also helps to foster acceptance in society, because in the end it always like the technology, when it's implemented in society, will also have an influence on society, and there are critical voices in society which should be integrated in the thinking about what is developed from the start, I think. And so if we really take this serious and we start engaging and communicating with society from the start, I think this is also important to build trust.
Thank you. Professor Yi?
On this topic, I want to start with two obvious observations. First one is this: AI development, R&D, requires a lot of money. And that a lot of money has to come from somewhere, in many cases investment, who wants to have a return on their investment. So it's obvious that AI development, the direction and contents of AI will depend on this funding, because those people who have a lot of money, who actually funded this project, has a special agenda, especially in a quick return in many cases. And even in the long term, they have some certain commercial interest which interfere with some of the developmental aspect of AI technology. One might say, oh, but that's the case which we can go over, because after all, AI technology has some fixed future, because the technology always strive for the efficiency and optimization. So maybe in the short run, this funding actually affect the contents of AI technology. But in the long run, we are going to arrive at the AGI or some wonderful technology which doesn't actually reflect this funding structure. I strongly disagree. We have many cases in Silicon Valley where this top-level AI architecture and the technology are hotly debated and developed. We have many cases where funding actually affect quite dramatically the direction and the contents of AI technology. For instance, there was a very famous cases of Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, was fired in 2024 by the directors of OpenAI for the negligence of a certain ethical principle, which was actually prompted the establishment of OpenAI as a non-profit organization in the first place. But then he was repositioned as a CEO because many employees of OpenAI was threatening the board of directors, that if they did not take him back as a CEO position, they all moved to the Microsoft. The reason behind this employees demonstration was OpenAI at that time was in the nearer to their IPO. So the employees was very concerned about the possibility that their stock prices would go down. And the first thing the Sam Altman, when he got back to OpenAI, was disband the super alignments team, which take care of the ethical alignment of ChatGPT. before I go on to a little bit more on this topic, I declare that I have no commercial interest. So I don't have any conflict of, I don't have any AI stocks. I don't particularly hate OpenAI. I'm just saying that OpenAI and Anthropic and Google all have a different ethos, what I mentioned in the Greek, of what is the best way to develop AI. So they try to embed this ethos, including commercial interest, in their AI product. And this is easily verifiable. When you ask a very technical question to various LLM, they will give you the more or less same answers. But if you ask a very sensitive, politically or culturally sensitive question to, for instance, Elon Musk's X and Google Gemini, you will have a completely different answers. The reason is they are trained in a different way. They are aligned different way. So ethos of each big tech company are actually affecting their technology, and AI is immature technology. So we have a elbow room to put into our core values in the desirable way of making AI technology in the future. So I think that's how we influence funding structure, a little bit at least. And I very much want Beyond AI project will get a better funding in the future and go on this kind of research and have a more desirable future of AI development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, well, let me shift us slightly from structures of power to questions of collaboration, which I think quite important for AI development and also implementation. So if funding and institutional policies shape what can be researched, collaboration shapes how research is actually done. So given the complexities of AI's ethical and social implications, many people, scholars, policymakers argue that truly effective development of AI require close collaboration between engineers and scholars in the humanities and social sciences. But it is actually quite difficult and challenging to collaborate with among scholars and researchers in different disciplines, not only disciplines, but also business and research institutions like universities. So what do you think desirable and interdisciplinary interactions actually look like in practice? And I think all of you have some experience for your own projects for collaboration. So it would be great if you could share your also experience as well. So let me maybe start with Professor Yi.
I was very fortunate after I got back from England to South Korea in 2002. I got involved in the various government committees which have diverse expertise. Social science, law, humanities, and engineers and natural sciences, looking at the various issues of frontier sciences. And I have a very interesting episode during these kind of discussions. I hope that illuminate what I want to say here. During the discussion, one of the sociologists used the word, Korean word meaning power, 권력. And he used this word to the natural science professors, that because you have a power, you have a responsibility to use this power very wisely. And that's why we need this kind of social discussion. And immediately, this natural science professors got angry. I mean, we don't have any power. We don't have any 권력. I mean, we are just, very hardworking people who try to get a really good scientific result, and that's all. We don't have power. At that time, I realized the power, even the same Korean word 권력, means different in social scientific the context and the ordinary commonsensical word. At least in South Korea, in ordinary context, 권력, the power, means immediately evoke some kind of misuse of power, like politicians using their power to change the certain irregular procedures, for instance. But in the social science context, power has some technical meaning, 권력, which is just the range of influence one agent can have over the other agent. So in that sense, power is very neutral. It doesn't have any negative connotation. But natural scientists immediately understand power in this negative connotation way. And I think this happens all the time when we have interdisciplinary discussions, because each discipline has a very technical meaning of a certain same sounding concept, which can have many problems. And I think we have to be open-minded that the very familiar word to me could have a very different meaning for other experts, and we try to find out what exactly he or she meant by the same concept and try to come up with a comprehensive view about the subject. And that's one way of making productive discussion of interdisciplinary studies. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, we do use kind of different languages, or even the same languages but in different meaning. Thank you, Professor Spoden.
Yeah, so my experience is very similar to what you just told us. That in the beginning of like collaboration, you always have to find like a common language to be able to discuss certain topics, or to even know what the others are talking about. And then, but my experience is after some time, if you work together and you come from very different disciplines, that you develop this common language, and but it's kind of like your group language then. And if somebody comes from, or I had this experience like during a winter school, there we were only scholars from the humanities and social sciences, but still also among the humanities and social sciences, you have very different meanings sometimes to concepts which seem to be the same. And then like after 1-2 days, we had guest speakers from outside, and then we realized that our understanding of that, after a very short time, we had our own language, and we also had kind of our own opinions about some things. And I think then you reach a point when it's also again important to reflect on like your inner group dynamics and to engage with the outer world again. And because your question was about interdisciplinary collaboration, I think it's also, so in my opinion, it's always good to include, if you design technology for a certain purpose or a certain target group, then it's always important to include these people also into your research and from the start. And I think sometimes here, like social science or humanities scholars can also take over like a mediating role. And this is also a little bit connected to your earlier questions about the funding, I think, as well, because these kind of collaborations, and also like to include like, the people who are the target groups into the research, like to have like a co-design or co-production process, is also you need more time. It's very intensive in planning and also funding, and I think and to include people from the start is sometimes also like from the conceptualization phase is sometimes difficult because you don't have the funding yet, and so. Grants, which for the planning of projects should also, like, I think, include this kind of funding to make it possible. And then I think another challenge is so at first it takes time, it takes additional work, and and this should be included in the planning and also covered by funding. And then I think another aspect, a challenging aspect, is the interdisciplinary work. It's difficult sometimes to publish, and maybe for this we need like new funding opportunity, publishing opportunities, and maybe also new formats. And so my recent experience is that, like, also for social scientists, when you go to a social scientist conference, it's compared to like more engineering or like human-computer interaction or human-robot interaction conferences, the fees are so different. Like if I tell my employer, please pay like $900 for the next conference, they will say like, where are we supposed to take the money from? So, but I just learned like for these kind of conferences, that's normal. And this has also something to do with funding, I think. So I think there are many, many hurdles, but in the end, it can be, very beneficial for all parts involved.
Thank you, Professor Itatsu. Just briefly, we have 50 seconds.
50 seconds, okay. So interdisciplinary collaboration is crucial. However, currently it is low priority, low evaluation, high burden, and it doesn't really make it worthwhile. So some kind of realignment needs to happen with funding and with evaluation within our higher education system, I think, as well as in the research field. I think that's under 50 seconds.
Thank you. Yes, we still have 20 seconds. Okay, thank you. Well, because of the time, we have to wrap up our session. Thank you so much for your participation. And I think all of these discussions show critical AI studies is not just one perspective or one approach to AI, but there are multiple, I think it is important to think about AI from diverse, multiple perspectives, interdisciplinary and interinstitutionally. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the exciting talks, Professor Ii, Professor Spoden, Professor Itatsu, and Associate Professor Hisano.